belonging to Blackness. Welcome to Season 6 of the podcast. I'm your host, Dr. India Lorik Wilmot. Good people, welcome to another episode. Today we are here with Tawny Chatmon, photographic artist famously known for her portraits of Black children, which are often overlaid with layers of paint and 24-karat gold leaf, along with semi-precious stones, glass, and other mixed media. In effect, Tawny's mixture of painting and portraiture is a regal reflection of Blackness that's been collected by serious collectors of all backgrounds, including celebrities such as Beyoncé, Alicia Keys, and Carol Christine Pounder, as well as institutes, including the Minneapolis Institute of Art, just to name a few. In 2018, she was named International Photographer of the Year at the International Photography Awards and was among 8 African American artists featured in the 2022 Venice Biennial exhibition called the Afrofuturist Manifesto, Blackness Reimagined, that was curated by Dr. Mertice Bedolla of Gallery Mertice. This exhibition explored the theme of Black life on the continuum of its imagined future presented in the Personal Structures Art Fair. In addition to upcoming exhibits in a city near you, you can also appreciate Tawny's work on book covers, such as A Passionate Mind in Relentless Pursuit, The Vision of Mary McLeod Bethune, or One Blood, or even A Song of Wraith and Ruin, and hopefully one day on a forthcoming book project of my own in 25. But in the meantime, let's lean in together and be in conversation with the creative who provides us with meaningful compositional expression, one photograph at a time. Welcome, Tawny.
Hi, thank you. That was a beautiful introduction. Thank you.
Well, we're so much looking forward to learning more about you and what it means to belong to Blackness. So are you ready?
I am.
Give Black Alliance is proud to support the podcast Talking Journeys of Belonging to Blackness, hosted by India Lorik Wilmot. The podcast is an exploration of all aspects of our Black communities, including gifts of time, talent, and treasure, while shedding a positive light on the African descendant experience globally. The Give Black Alliance informs, reforms, and transforms philanthropy to acknowledge and partner with our communities in order to bring about equitable change for all. To learn more about Give Black Alliance, visit us at giveblackalliance.org.
Act 1, Call to Adventure. So, Tawny, much of what inspires us and gives us purpose is autobiographically rooted. You too have described how your work is a vessel to communicate your joy, love, pain, frustration, and other emotions that you may be experiencing. You were born in Tokyo, Japan, and at some point, because of the military family you grew up in, you settled in Maryland, where you are currently based. But take us back a bit. How has your family life, your upbringing inspired you to focus your creative endeavors as a photographic artist and creative?
You're correct. I was born in Japan. From childhood, we lived in Georgia. There's other places that the military brought us, but growing up, I mostly remember growing up in Germany from, I think, maybe 6 to maybe 12. In Germany during that time, our field trips were always to castles. I say that because I believe that might have something to do with why I focus on using gold frames in my work. I'm not sure, but I think. And so my family has always been close. It was me, my dad, my mom, and my 3 sisters. At a very young age, I was always a creator, a maker. My mom will say I was born an artist. I was always in dramatic art. I created little collages and vision boards before I even knew what a vision board was. I redesigned my clothes and I went to work with her and worked on her computer and used Microsoft Paint, things like that. And so I feel that my family has always been a supporter of my creativity. And then becoming a mother has definitely inspired the work I create. My children are the sitters most of the time for my work, my other family members and close friends that are like family. And then moving back a little, the reason why I even photograph children is based on having a son. When I was 25, I turned my lens to just focusing on children and families. Before then, I had never thought about photographing children, but after becoming a mother, it's all I thought about.
Mm.
My camera was in my son's face every single day of his life. Fast forward to 2010, my father was diagnosed with prostate cancer. He and I had a discussion that I would photograph his, I hesitate to say battle because I just read someone's obituary who felt that calling it a battle meant that they lost their fight. They didn't fight hard enough. So I'm kind of trying to be careful with my words with that now. I know my father fought, he wanted to live, but he and I talked about photographing his experience with prostate cancer. We thought that it would be a story that would inspire Black men to take prostate cancer seriously. And we always thought that he would survive. And so I spent that year just photographing, him being able to walk, even though they told him after a surgery he wasn't going to be able to walk. His ups, his downs, his laughter, his tears, his words. And so after documenting such a painful thing, my father ultimately ended up losing his life to prostate cancer. It changed everything I wanted to do with my life. It made me realize that I have children. Being without a father, no longer having him, the person that I could go to for advice, that instilled in me so much wisdom and just love, that I had to live in this world without him. It was really just eye-opening to me and, made me think about how my kids would be in this world without me. It made me realize that I wouldn't be here forever. They wouldn't always be able to have my guidance. There were a multitude of things that I was complaining about at that time. I just started to pay more attention to the world that they were growing up in. And I wanted to make use of myself. And so I did spend some time after he passed away doing what I promised him that I would do. He had encouraged me to call these clients that I had always wanted, that were on my wish list to work for, the same way that I was calling doctors and pharmaceutical companies to try to get him the care. He told me to call them the same way I was calling for him and go after those clients and get them. After he passed away, I did try to do that to, make him proud, but it started to feel also empty. This tool, this item that I had just used to photograph my father taking his last breath, I was still using in such a meaningless way to me.
Mm.
And so there were all these feelings of, what am I going to do now? And I really had no plan. I just knew that I could not use this camera simply for monetary gain anymore. It had to mean something. The remaining 40 years or so that I have left have to mean something. They can't just be that I'm getting these clients for what, for who? I have no idea. I think I just maybe wanted them for the accolades or for who knows what reason, but family for sure has been at the center of everything I do and everything I create now.
Mm. I just want to hold space for you and on behalf of the audience and listeners to say thank you for sharing your father's journey with prostate cancer. For him to ask you to memorialize his journey, I think it's just a beautiful thing.
For sure.
And how that experience had an indelible mark on just even the choices that you're making as a creative. Compare and contrast different things and how that informs even your creative sense and creative eye, right? Because you're literally global.
Yeah. Yeah.
And photography is something that's interesting in that it captures a moment. So why photography over other art forms and mediums?
So I guess going back, And I can only kind of take it to being a teenager and, just putting together these little photo sessions and taking photos of my friends and myself, self portraits. It was just something that was natural. I always thought I was going to be an actress. I thought that I was going to have a career in dramatic arts. I had an agreement with my social studies 12th grade teacher that when I won an Oscar, I would mention his name. It was a buildup of feelings. I just decided I no longer wanted a career in dramatic arts. And when I say I just quit, I do mean I just quit. And I didn't think anything about it. I didn't even think what I was going to do to now earn a living or, pay bills. And my husband, he was my boyfriend at the time, said to me, "Why don't you try your hand at photography?" My parents helped me. They bought me a semi professional Panasonic camera. I just started shooting anything, anyone. And then my husband, boyfriend at the time, bought me a Nikon Coolpix and then a professional DSLR, which was a D100. Photography was just something that was natural. When I had more to say, it became the first layer of my work. But then all of the mediums and things that I had already been doing as a child kind of all morphed together just on accident, but not. There are photographers that can say everything they want to say with just one photograph. For me, it meant layers. I had so much to say, I had to say it by layering all of the messages in the work.
What's compelling about your work is your intentionality around creating imagery that celebrates and honors the beauty of Black childhood and familial bonds. And that's layered and complex to begin with in real life. These types of images are excluded in contemporary art. You've utilized gold, especially in the iconography series that you've done. The choices that you're making with materials is about layers. But what serves as the inspiration for these kinds of stories?
I think I first began experiencing or using gold in 2015, maybe. It was for a series titled Byzantine Contempo. And at that time, I just used 24 karat gold leaf. They symbolized a crown, like a crown life motif. Not crowns in the traditional sense of hierarchy or, rulers or people with excessive power over others, but in the sense that you are royal, you are divinity, you are a creation of the Most High. You are a leader, but not the kind that leads with brutality. I was using gold in that way. And then thought about Klimt's work and how his work made me feel when I first saw his work. And I remember gasping, specifically his works from his golden phase. They gave me feelings of regality, of beauty. It's just stopped me in my tracks. And that is what I wanted people to do when they laid their eyes on my work. I wanted them to not only stop at how beautiful the sitters are or the golds or the work itself, but I wanted that initial reaction to cause them to look more into what I was saying in my work. And so that was the initial use of gold. I wasn't planning on continuing to use gold. I just was using it at that time as a way to have the viewer stop and look at the work, look into it, see the titles, see my name, read the statements, learn more about the issues that I was discussing, such as Black children being sent home from school because of our hairstyles, or, there's this piece of my son where he's wearing a hoodie. The hoodie has been looked at as something that means this boy is aggressive or a problem if he's wearing it walking in an all-white neighborhood, such as Trayvon Martin. So I wanted people to just not walk past the work. I wanted them to stop. I wanted them to pay attention. I wanted them to look into the issues that I was bringing about in the work. So that was the second use of gold for me. And then next, as I learned more about gold and its historical use, gold was reserved for those of importance.
Mm.
If you see something that is gold, you are to view it as precious. You are to look at it as special. You are to value it. That was exactly what I was saying about my sitters. And so it just made sense to continue to use it. And now we're at iconography. Iconographers of the past and Byzantine art used gold. They wanted the viewer to have a spiritual experience when they laid their eyes on the work. Their hands were thought to be led by the spirit of the Most High. Viewers prayed to this work. It was viewed as conduits to the divine. My sitters are not to be worshiped. My icons are not to be worshiped, but they embody my prayers for my children, for Black children, for the world. You are to look at them as the same, as divine, as special, as precious. And so now, as I'm learning all of these beautiful things about gold and what it means, also what's being exposed is greed and suffering.
Mm.
Specifically in Congo, millions have died being forced labor and just military forces trying to take control of the resources, child laborers mining for cobalt, which is used for our phones and computers, and gold also. My supplier telling me that the gold I am buying is from a conflict-free zone, it doesn't feel like enough for me. So I now have to find a way to bring awareness to what's happening, as well as really question the materials that I use in my work going forward.
Mm. I mean, your pieces, it's a beautiful meditation on Black family in a way that we don't see represented as part of public discourse around our life. But I love your consciousness. It's more than just having a representation. It's, as a creative, the responsibility around, well, how am I procuring the materials to convey a particular message that is all about amplification, it's positivity. I can imagine it feels heavy to create when you also have to be very thoughtful and intentional about the materials that you're sourcing for this work. If you had to have a statement, what is it that you want your viewers to walk away with when they come to your work?
I want the viewer to look beyond the beauty of the work and learn about what I'm talking about, the messages that are embedded in the work. There was a gentleman that viewed my work in Miami, and he was talking about how beautiful the work was, how it stopped him in his tracks. And he asked me, "What's it about?" And I told him I had given my sitter the eyes of George Stinney, who was the youngest person ever to be executed, but who was also a Black child who was wrongfully executed.
Right.
Threw his hands up and said, "Oh, that's too deep for me. You had me until it got too deep."
Mm.
I've had another experience where I have been expressing my horror and sadness and complete and utter shock what is happening to Palestinians. And I have had people tell me, "Oh, I follow you for your work, not your opinion." And I guess I would like people to know whose work you're looking at, know what I stand for, know what I speak out about before you share it, before you buy it, before you follow me, before you ask me to be a part of an exhibition. Aside from just that, view my sitters as what they are. They're precious, they're valuable, they're special, they deserve to be protected.
You have multiple foci around your work and your art. But then I'm also getting the sense that what undergirds even perhaps the themes themselves is a bit of activism. You're saying, here's a call to action. What are you going to do about it?
I think what I'm saying is that the work is a direct extension of me and how I feel.
Mm.
I didn't realize it at first that creating the work, was a way of healing for me. And also saying what I really couldn't put into words, but I needed to say. If you've viewed a series where I have discussed that Black children are getting sent home from school because they are wearing their hair in cornrows and braids, I do hope that moves you. If I'm saying that Black boys are being wrongfully targeted, I do hope that moves you. I'm trying to contribute to the world that I want my children to grow up in. The person connected to the work is also a human that cares about the world as a whole.
Act 2, The Road. So, Tawny, you once said that our life experiences and memories are largely responsible for who one ultimately becomes, what we are taught, and even the toys we play as children. All those things contributes immensely to shaping us into adulthood. For you as an adult, how do you play?
I think the way that I'm made,
Mm.
it feels that everything is connected. So I like to travel with my kids. The summer has very much been based on self-reflection and just being with my family and children, but it's still connected to the work. And even when I'm looking for a reset, I'm still plagued by everything that's going on in the world. And it's heavy, it's very heavy. So when you ask that, I'm not sure that I'm ever 100% playing because it's difficult
Mm.
to find joy in the state of the world. So even while I am enjoying my time with my children, I'm intensely aware that someone else is bearing theirs.
Mm.
And so at this point in my life, it's very difficult to just play. Every day is about spending time with my family, but you've just actually reminded me how difficult it is to kind of detach because I have this thing where I don't think I want to because the way that I see a lot of people that are able to detach scares me. Every day I wake up, I'm thankful, I'm grateful to be alive, but I also think about the horrifying things that are happening everywhere. I grapple with how I exist in a world like this.
But what I'm also hearing you say is that even in the time that you spend with family, with your children, there's at least joy in that.
My children bring me so much joy. They are joy.
If, let's say, there's a moment where you're like, wow, this is heavy. Is there something that you choose to do just to kind of help pivot? Because we can spiral and be in a space of, oh my gosh, this is so heavy. In those moments, are you finding like if this moment in time is feeling heavy, is it that, all right, kids, we're going to go to the beach, the library, write poetry, or we're going to do some yoga? Like, how do you get to a place where you feel centered to create?
I create to get centered. And then once I am centered, I pour all of that out in my work. And then once that for the day is out of me, then I can spend time with my kids. We go to the beach. So my son is now out of school. My daughter does school online. So she's with me all day. And then my other daughter, she goes to school, but they're a huge part of my life. So we spend time together. We're always doing something. We travel. For me, the way I get centered is to make, to create. If I'm frustrated, sad, overwhelmed, I just have to go create and pour all of that into what I'm making.
What has your experience been like as a Black woman in the industry to date? Because you are very clear with your intention of not only the message, but saying, look, I'm the person, there's politics in my art too. So if you're going to support me, you're supporting all of me. What has that experience been like where you're really trying to think about presenting yourself in a way that's very authentic? The art is very authentic, but then you're in an industry where do they really appreciate authenticity? How has this experience been for you?
I think that from the beginning, I have just always tried to be very intentional with what I say yes to and what I say no to. And that's not to say things that I've said no to, I felt were bad. Maybe at that time, I had too much going on. And so I said no. I've just been very careful. I've made some mistakes. And usually, my Intuition will tell me no and always go with my intuition. As Black artists, we have to be careful, or I will speak for myself. I have to be careful in not allowing myself to be used. If I receive an invitation to do something for Black History Month a day before February 1st, it's a hard no for me. I think I just use my intuition to guide me in who will present my work in the way that I want it presented, who will actually be able to write about my work in a delicate and, real manner. I think I'm just allowing myself to be led by my instincts and intuition.
Right, because that's helped our ancestors survive.
For sure.
As with any business, even the art industry can be highly exploitative too.
Mhm.
Black people, Black women in this industry have to feel like if I don't say yes to this, then all of a sudden I'm set aside or labeled something that's not beneficial to me in my career.
Very true.
I think for you too, it's about leaving your mark on the world that says, my voice and my perspective matters. What does legacy mean to you?
My youngest daughter, she told me at a very young age that she chose me to be her mother.
She's been here before.
She actually told me she's been here before. She was about 5 years old. She said, we all get to choose. So she said, we all have a choice and we all chose to be here. She chose me. To add something funny to it, she told me she had a choice between Beyonce, me, and Queen Elizabeth. I really take that to heart because it just confirms to me that I'm here for a reason. I'm here to do something. And it can't just be to be quiet. It has to be that I'm here, I believe, to give more to the world than I ever took from it. And I've not always thought this way. A lot of the times we think that we're here to just guide our kids and we're the ones in charge, but they also guide and teach us as well. And my kids have taught me a lot. I think to me, legacy means what did I give to the world? How did I make use of myself? Did I give more than I took? When I found my voice, how did I use it to help?
And of your art, what would you want the legacy of your art to be?
When I was answering the question, I was speaking for myself and for my art. That is my voice. When I found it, I was able to use it to help versus take away. I think that that's my contribution to the world. It is my legacy. I want collectors that are proudly displaying my work, sharing these messages. I don't want my work to sit in storage rooms. I don't have a specific institution I want the work to end up in. Whatever institution owns the work, display it proudly and beautifully and respectfully, and whatever collector owns the work is going to do the same thing. I want Black families to own the work. I want people who are touched by it to own the work. I want them to pass it down family member to family member. I want it to benefit the children, the sitters that are in the work. And so those are all of the things that are all connected to the legacy that I hope I leave behind and the work itself.
Act 3, Where We Land. So we've come to the end of our conversation, but I want to provide some space for you to share if there are any upcoming exhibits that you're going to have, something that folks can check out. You can also share your social media handles so those who are listening find Tawny Chatmon.
I'm working on 3 bodies of work, still working on iconography, also the restoration, which focuses on restoring mammy dolls and racist figurines by disrobing them from the torn garments and putting them in their rightful place as heirlooms. and kind of reclaiming those images that were created to dehumanize us and restoring them to something beautiful. Also, the reconciliation that is centered around celebrating culinary traditions in the Black community, foods that, again, were also turned into negative stereotypes. I am placing foods such as the watermelon back to its rightful place in our history. And all of these works will be included in my exhibition at the National Museum of Women in the Arts in DC in 2025, where I will have about 20 works in that exhibition, mostly new. I will be announcing all of that on my website and probably Instagram and my newsletter. And my website is tawnychatmon.com. Instagram is at Tawny Chatmon. And I think that's about it.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us here on Belonging to Blackness and talking to us about your journey and experiences and the ways in which you show up.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others and be sure to subscribe. Find us on my website, www.indialoricwilmot.com. Follow us on IG and Facebook at belongingtoblackness_podcast for the latest fashion and accessories. Visit www.shopbelongingtoblackness.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.